we are in. And we begin on the first line, asking the question. Now, when it was said that, even though it is, even though it is not entirely the it is exceptional, because as it is considered as, then at that moment it is considered food. So if it was moistened, it can. Now, true, this din is not accepted by everyone. Avana, who thinks that if it passed through a river, so it was moistened, it became that when it leaves after that, it automatically receives. Even though it is still alive. Because as it is, so it is considered as, since it is like, so it has, so it has, so it has. But beforehand, it must have been moistened. This means it had contact with water for the tumah to pass. That is the halacha of Rashial. However, no, it is considered alive like its mother. It is true that it is forbidden to eat its chilev, but even though it is forbidden to eat its chilev, it is considered alive. Being considered as alive, so at that moment, like any animal, is it not also the same? So in truth, it is. We continue. Continue. It returns now saying that both in the end, also, as they are based on the same, like that. It is the Michna that we just mentioned there, that even it is batel, even though it is written in the Michna din of fish, which normally do not need Ché'hitat. But from when are they susceptible to receiving tuma, since they do not need Ché'hitat? Because do I still consider them alive and not susceptible to tuma? Or do I consider them dead and already? From the moment I caught them, even though they are not yet dead, I took them out of their environment and it becomes more, the fish must die. Taken out and it can no longer live. If you recall that normally if it has dried up the size of an Italian coin around the fins, the fish can no longer live. Even if they are still twitching, they are considered to have no hope of life. That is the halacha of Rav Rava. He asked me the difference between cattle and the fish. He continues to twitch, but it is out of the water. So according to Rabbi Kiva, if it is dried around the fins to the size of an Italian coin, as for it must be, so that it is truly dead. That means that
because when it is not dried then. Because it is not dried. No, as long as it is live, according to the Bet Hill, it is still alive. It's called bull. It is not, even if it is going to die soon. Huh. What last one? That.
What is the size?
An Italian coin, you have to see how big it should be. A 10-cent piece, something like.
if it is at the fins,
A fin.
the level of the fin. If the moisture is dried at the fins to that level, that size, that surface area, then it's called a fish that is no longer considered alive. Even if you put it back in the water, it will not revive. And after that, that's where it is. That is for. You have to wait until it is dead. Okay, now we come back here again, once more. That means we have that in fish. You ask the question, if now there are the same synonym that we have in animals we find in fish, for example, we never do that verification. But let's imagine that it has perforated intestines in one of the perforated intestines. 3 perforated intestines in a fish, we see that it was bitten in the belly. Okay, so what is the... So you can ask yourself the question just as well after it says more than 12 months. And you ask yourself the same question if you assume that a trifa cannot live 12 months. How so? You can ask the question, what is alive? The fish, it can live a long time. So at that moment, even though it can live a long time, the status is very strong. But fish that don't have a body to live a long time, no, maybe we can't make them treat. And so they are considered dead. Already they are considered dead. But at that moment, they are fit to be, okay, I consider them already dead. And they are permissible following what we saw before. Maybe same animal that the animals, the beasts and all that, we need to do Ché'hitat to make them kosher. But the fish that we don't need to slaughter already, when it dies, I can already consume them. Perhaps they aren't considered dead until they are truly dead, so they aren't forbidden until they have actually passed away, even if its intestines are perforated. So for it not to be slaughtered fish, it's just raw. How do I eat it? The perforated intestines are not perforated for a fish. That will depend on whether it was slaughtered or not. Now we return to a case of a cow that gave birth to a stillborn calf. This means that it wasn't born. It was born in the 8th month. The 8th month is considered a calf that is not expected to be able to survive. The fetus inside the cow in question, the 8-month-old one, is considered like the mother's meat. And so what is the status of the mother's meat? Someone who eats the mother's meat? So here too, the one who eats the meat of this one will be because it wasn't supposed to live. Now, its fat is like the fat of an animal, so it is nothing worthy of. One is carrot, the other is prohibited. Why? At the moment of birth, it is forbidden to give it the status of an animal. And since it gives it the status of an animal, and because an animal is prohibited, its fat becomes forbidden the moment it is born. Now, I'm not saying it is forbidden inside the mother's womb, because inside the mother's womb it is a different case since we are allowed to eat it. We have the right, but is the fetus considered forbidden or is it permitted? This is a discussion we have already seen before. Here we are talking about the fact that she gave birth. She gave birth to a fetus. Do I call it an animal or do I not call it an animal? So according to, it is called an animal, so its fat is forbidden in the same way as the mother's. So then, why? Because 2 conditions are needed to be considered born. First, that it exited the womb. Second, that it completed the 9 months. Since it didn't complete the 9 months, as it was only at the end of 8 months, it emerged. So it is called a wild animal, not an animal. So that is why it becomes a fetus, not judged as an animal. So it is true that there is a prohibition, in this case, different. Carrot, and here it is, because in the
fats of a wild animal are entirely permitted, okay? There's no prohibition because the wild animal is not forbidden.
So all fats are permitted. If it died, it came out. So it's stillborn? It's not. We didn't find it in the mother's belly. So he said that if
you eat the pizza, because it hasn't had the sheshta of that for, you need two conditions. That it is, and at the same time, that it has passed these 9 months to be considered.
it will be considered because it needs the conditions past 9 months. Because it hasn't passed 9 months.
Because it hasn't passed a month.
It must not have passed 9 months.
No, if it passes 9 months, he agrees that it has a status of behemoth. But since it hasn't passed 9 months, it has a status of... Exactly. While for Rabbi Yochanan...
It's not like that. Why? Because it's the birth that gives it a status of behemoth. Not the months that give the status of behemoth.
Even if it is born dead.
Because it is. Even if it is born dead. It is still behemoth. If, from the moment it came out, that would be a... Who brings this dispute in a different way? Well, almost. It didn't finish the 9 months. The fetus doesn't have a status of behemoth, and so it isn't considered behemoth. That is, which is about the between. That the owner of the animal, he reached his hands into the animal itself. He tore off a piece of the fetus of the animal, which is 9 months old. He ate it. People really go and try to be impatient and make it come out to eat it in that way. He must be psychologically in need. Because if he doesn't believe that, maybe he will. Wait, as long as you haven't slaughtered the mother, it could be forbidden. You have to slaughter the mother, so it is no longer considered. What is he going to gain in this? It will still be called forbidden anyway. It's fat that is forbidden. Why didn't he have the patience to wait unless he was really starving? Or something like that. Or because the status of the fetus, you shouldn't believe that the mother hasn't been slaughtered yet. It has a status of... As long as it hasn't come out itself, the mother is still alive. That's the dispute. Does the woman? No, that was when it had already come out. If the fetus came out, is he going to make it come out? He is going to make it come out, the fetus, he will make it come out. Yes, but that's for the animal itself. Now we are talking about the fat, how to consider the fat of the thing. The fat of the difference between meat and the fat itself. In Michna you are speaking of, we said between novella and Michna, there are two different terms. Both of them are Adam, but the difference in Michna, it must be whole, whereas meat, no, even a kazai is enough to be tamei. But no, it's the approach, ahava amina, that someone will come and put their hand inside, tear off a piece of fat, to go eat it specifically if they don't want to perform the Ché'hitat of the beast. He doesn't want it all, he won't have the right, because as long as you haven't performed the Ché'hitat of the mother, you won't permit the inside part, right?
What is his interest? That's what I'm asking myself. It's precisely where you accepted that my life is listening to impar. If it's a theoretical case, treat the problem that is
To treat so that we can have people potentially who have a big core, and impatient. In the belly of the mother. Because it's the months that inverse it. It is not estimated a little differently this time. It is the fact that it reached 9 months. It has a status of Bakor. And therefore it is not. Because of Kodachim, and it requires two conditions, and that it has exited the womb of the mother. Consequently, if the person put their hand into the cow and tore off a part of the fat and ate it, he is chayiv and not tameh, vidide. Therefore chayiv and not tameh because the punishment is less severe. On that there asked a question about bikor. Now let's try to remember a little bit. Korban Hashem. It is a korban that one brings when one has a seder. A korban Hashem, can it be female or must it be male? Well, it's a bit difficult to remember, but remember, a man is always responsible at home. The one who does all the, we consider that he is the one responsible for all the mistakes there are. Consequently, korban Hashem is always male. So that means in the korban Hashem there is never a bechor. Since it is male, it cannot have a baby. Okay. And so it brings it like that in relation to the pasuk of korban. Yes. But here we are going to do a dabim. No. Marta. Over there, that must be. Because normally it's already written in shlamim that I have to, that he is, I have to be, and then it's also written in korban. The question is, why does it need to be written in korban? If I have already written it in shlamim, then I can deduce it. Then there, why is it written again that the fat must be placed on the blood and the can and what do we have? It's that you don't have a possibility of having a, remind us, it's the same, agreed. So that means that all the korbanot that are, even this time like the shlamim offering, that can bring shlamim, can be female. Shalom, to remind you, make peace with your wife. Everyone benefits. You give her a gift, so it can also come from a female. The chalil fat is pasul. For the offering, it is the chalil fat, the chalil of ka. So the ben pekwa of shlamim, I cannot bring its fat like in the mizbeach, the same way as the fat of I don't bring it on the mizbeach. The lulain on the mizbeach. So the fat of shlamim is not brought to the mizbeach. How do we learn that? We learn it by the fact that the Torah has already written in shlamim that it goes up, and it repeated it again in Hashem when I could have said it from shlamim. If it repeated, it's to teach me a special rule that the chalil, meaning the fat that comes from a ben pekwa, cannot be used as the fat to be put on the mizbeach. And on that, now first that is the rule, and on that what he says, as the question he asked. That's why I need a repeated verse to exclude the case of shlamim. Why do I need it? Because normally for me the chalil is called behima. And since it's called behima, I could have thought that I could also bring its fat on the bivis mizbeach. So the verse comes, speaking in Acham, to tell you that in the chalil, so in the ben pekwa, one cannot bring its fat on the mizbeach. That means I have proof here. Actually, the shalil is called behima. The proof is that I needed a verse specifically to exclude it from there. But according to you, that the shalil is not called behima? To exclude it? If it's not called behima, its fat is automatically forbidden on the mizbeach because we don't have behima. So there is no fat to bring to the mizbeach for a haya. So if the chalil for you, by definition, is called weshala, then it's clear that its fat, too, is not brought onto the altar. We agree on the of. And he said, he replied, on the contrary, my reasoning is based on the fact that the Torah excluded the chalil, the status of the chalil, regarding the sacrifice. I deduce here that the status is not called B, but is called that because the verse repeated it. precisely to teach me that the fat of the chalil is not called B, it is called, he uses the same thing but interprets it different. We agree on the answer? To whom the question is posed in River? Who asked the question? The one who asked the question. Why the need to repeat there in the fact that the fat and the kidneys we bring onto the altar on the skin to exclude the case of the shalil? Because one cannot bring a shalil because it is easy. Even all the other cases, all other possible, shalil agreed. He exits the deal, which means the reason why he is not brought as a sacrifice, that is the Michna. It told me that the chalil, it's fat. I do not bring, because I can eat it because it is permitted. That which the Torah did, because it was, and the fat of it is permitted. Therefore, that is why the Torah needs to tell me. It teaches me from here precisely that the fat of the shalil has a status of hayzef. No, at that moment it is not. So it is not. At that moment it is not. And that is what you call it. And that is what you call it. Why does the Hashem come to exclude it since it has a status of animal? And therefore it has a status of, why can I not be sanctifying the fat of a pu'ah? That is the question I am asking. In other words, to which the verse replies. I need it to mean that when a baby is born, a calf is born, I do not have the right to sanctify it until after 8 days, only on the 8th. So for a pu'ah as well, how much time do I have to be able to sanctify it? 8 days. You're saying that it depends. Since the animal is 1 day, then the calf automatically is the same day. Since the Hashem is, it is. No, yes, no. But it's not. I'm talking about a day of consumption here. We're talking about having the right to be. Yes, but okay, so you must have the. Even though he exceeded 8 months, even though he has a name of, you have to wait 8 days. You have to wait 8 days. But there is not even a need to perform the slaughter. And normally we don't. Well, here you are getting into Rabbi Meir and others. Get into the wrong. Okay, but the Ben, you might have thought that I don't need to wait 8 days since I already performed the slaughter of the mother. I found it inside the womb. When would I need to perform the slaughter? Why wait? Despite everything, you must wait. Had we not seen a Ben since he doesn't need to perform?
And so that means the Ben's status continues to be forbidden as well to be sacrificed.
Because technically he has a problem. He must wait 8 days. Because not just that, you have to wait 8 days, and so you have to wait 8 days. He has the status of an animal. Even though he has the status of an animal of a sacrificial line, I will learn that his is forbidden. Because although he has the status of an animal, I could have thought that I could offer him on the. So now from the status, I learned that I cannot offer him. That means his status is not, that means the verse comes to say, as we found. The verse, okay. Because a calf, you have to wait 8 days to be able to offer it. So now even the Ben, he came out, okay. The point is, there is no difference to be made between an animal and that. And anyway, he will not be allowed to be offered within the 7 days. So what? Now similarly, his status, since I gave him the status of an animal, his status cannot go up on the altar. And I would learn that a priori from the status. So in conclusion, what do we see here? That in the same way that a calf that is born, you have to wait 7 days. Even though it is called an animal, we are not allowed to offer it within the 7. In the same way, a ben pakua can be called an animal, but cannot be offered even on the altar, even if it can be called an animal. We have proof here, therefore, from the time that it can have the title of animal, and that nevertheless we cannot offer it, contrary to what the Rishon wanted to ask. If it has a status of an animal, why don't you want to offer it? No, that's exactly the question he asked. For me, I don't have a problem because I don't consider it a ben pekua. But for you who considers it a ben pekua, why don't you want it to be? Look, it's called a ben pekua. Still, you don't want it to be a ben pekua. Is a ben, and it turns out she is tree. I found a living ben inside. The one who forbids the ben anyway, up to it is met. What? Because he considers that it is separated from the mother, even if the mother is tree. So it is kosher. The one who permits the ben. So the ben can be permitted with the mother's Ché'hitat. In a case where I slaughtered the mother, I found that the mother is treif, so the ben, I put it in the category of treif, so it is prohibited. No, the one who permits, so the one who permits the Rav with the mother Ché'hitat, when it is 9 months, even though it is 9 months, even though it is 9 months, okay, it is with the mother Ché'hitat permitted. I can even eat it, and this will still be permitted. Why? Does that mean I have the right to eat it, even though the mother is treif to eat? Why? The Torah, when it permitted us to perform Ché'hitat, it gave these 2 signs to be permitted. Cut the 2 signs of the mother, cut the 2 signs of the calf. If the mother's Ché'hitat isn't valid because the mother is treif, I can fall back on the ben pekua's Ché'hitat and perform the Ché'hitat of the 2 signs to be permitted. It's okay. That's even according to the rabbis, not just there is no problem even for. If you found now, you performed Ché'hitat, and it was treif, and you found a living child there, a living one, I'm obligated to perform Ché'hitat. And I am still obligated to give the zroa, the cheeks, and the abomasum. And if it died without Ché'hitat, it is nevela, it is not considered a ben pekua, it is tameh. So that means the sifa follows the rabbis, since it means it was permitted by the mother's Ché'hitat. Even though the mother is treif, the mother's Ché'hitat did not give it the status of nevela, since it is not dead. So in the case of the mother, what did he tell us? According to the Ché'hitat, so that means that, like Rabbi Meir, the fetus needs Ché'hitat. When you told me, you said it needs Ché'hitat for you, Rav Sheshet. Rabbi Meir, you think like Rabbi Meir, and so if you think like him, you consider it different from the mother. If it is different from the mother, if it is dead, you say that it is forbidden. Who says it is permitted with the mother? So you are saying one thing and then another. That's not possible. He answers him, for the mother, it's fine. And according to you, who asked me the question, how will you explain this Mishnah to me, which says that you found there a child of one living of 9 months? How are you going to explain it to me? Will you explain it to me? He answered, this is not a difficulty for me. Why? Because Rabbi Meir will agree. I can tell you that the fetus was already dead. He says, what does he says? You can read it, you can say that the intention is you already found it dead in the mother's womb. Granted that in such a case, Rabbi Meir agrees that the mother's Ché'hitat, just as it removes nevela from a treifa, is thanks to the mother's. Ché'hitat, it is no longer nevela or treifa. In the same way, the fetus found dead in the mother's womb, the mother's Ché'hitat removes the nevela status and leaves it as treifa. So that is why the sifa can even go according to Rabbi Meir, so it is the same law according to him as well. But according to you, he didn't answer me like that. He answered him. He answers me, it's not a question. Why did Rav Huna say the Torah gave 4 possibilities for it to be 2, well, 4 signs, the 2 of the mother and the 2 of the fetus, which are, he found it. He said the teaching we just mentioned regarding fetus, you explain well in the name of the permitted in it is that of the mother, and like that also. It means on demand. So he wouldn't answer right away and would pause. When asked the question, he would pause. So when he made that pause, Rav Ashi left. Since he left, he couldn't have known. Did he answer him, not answer him, or is there another explanation? He was drinking while he asked him the question mid-flow, so he didn't have time to answer him, and he just left. So that's why he couldn't know. Does the master agree or does he disagree with that? So there's a question in the middle of it, and regardless of the reason. He doesn't wait for the answer. He doesn't wait for the end. No, it's not a question. He asked a question, but he's hoping that maybe he will retract it himself. Why am I forced to be the one to retract? Maybe he will retract it himself. He will realize that he made a mistake. Rabbi Shimon, sorry, it's fine in that case. That even if he's 5 years old and all that, he's in the fields of the sea, he's a young one. Okay. When he left, did he have time to walk? Did he put his hooves on the ground? Or did he not put his hooves on the ground? If he put his hooves on the ground, according to the Tanakhama, he needs Ché'hitat. If he didn't put his hooves on the ground, he doesn't need Ché'hitat, according to Tanakhama. Whereas Rabbi Shimon says, even if he put his hooves on the ground, even if he started to walk and live, in that case, there is no problem. He doesn't need Ché'hitat. Now what does he mean? Why do we have an avamina that he needs Ché'hitat, that he needs Ché'hitat? It's because we're afraid that it's a concern that if he put his hooves on the ground, it means he started walking, he's going to grow. People forget that it's a ben pekua. People forget it's a ben pekua. They'll think that just as I ate that one, maybe I can eat this one too, without performing Ché'hitat. The sages impose performing Ché'hitat as soon as he puts his hooves on the ground. Whereas they don't need, we need. Trying to deliver them to. According to the statement, it says the animal of the father. If he said it's forbidden, it carries over to the children. We've already seen this. Who doesn't need, who fertilized a cow. That is normal. Now, the normal cow, it has the people of the sea, and the people of the sea must be slaughtered, and the ben pekawa. The ben pekawa doesn't need to be, so we find ourselves in a stuck situation. We cannot be permitted in that case, neither by slaughter, nor itzur. Continue. So this ben pekawa that put its feet on the ground, put its feet on the ground, as well as with, if now it has hooves that are not split, well, you have the right to eat it for several years without. Everything that is surprising to see a calf without having split hooves. One remembers that one. So you see the split hoof, it doesn't have the split hoof, it is still kosher ben pekah, so people won't confuse ben pekah with another animal, and so in such a case there is no concern about being able to eat it without differently. Everyone agrees that if the ben doesn't have, it has hooves that are not split, well, kiluta, that comes from an animal that itself has split hooves, ben pekah, benuda, then it too does not have. Oh, no, it's that even it too, it does not have split hooves. So the son, a ben pekah, that doesn't have split hooves, that comes from a mother that doesn't have split hooves, and ben pekah, kiluta, this case there, which was also ben, it is permitted. Two surprises, people remember. That means that according to the case of Rav, it must have two oddities that the mother does not have split hooves, and the baby does not have split hooves, and the baby does not have split hooves. So at that moment, okay, we are talking about a cow, that at that moment we say it is kosher. But if it's only the baby that doesn't have split hooves, but the mother, she has normal hooves, then according to Rava, there is a dispute. It is still present. He permits its son, well, the son of the son, so that means the son of the Ben Pekawa. All the descendants of that Ben do not need slaughter. He, the Ben, he does not need to be, he is permitted without slaughter. But the baby of the Ben, no, that requires a rabbinic decree for fear that we will eat other animals without performing the slaughter. That is the son of God. He came with bear, a bit like the bear bit, so there was one that it gave back very hard, but it is. When after it shuddered at the carcass, it put its hooves on the ground, so it walked, we are forced to allow generations later. Is it that you knew shows that it, no one. Who tracks me? So, and even when he spoke only of the child swallow that we need, that the child needs it, but the mother doesn't need it. So it'll be, why does he not need it? Oh, my lamb that was bitten by the wolf, by a bear. It's a, well, what? Marley replied, answered Han Rabimo. Rahanan, when he said his own, he didn't say that in his name. He said that for Raimon Sisori, that the first one explained Rabbi Moore, that even after Dorat, the son of the son of the son of the son, he doesn't need a get. He comes, no, Raz said only he doesn't need a get, but his children do need. So all over again, we ask the question, Rav, each time someone who on him replied, when, in which case do I say, I don't think like what you brought me in the name of, but I think like what says in the name of nothing in of. What are these cases up? We'll see right away. He was taken to be guillotined. He said, I wrote to my wife. When he said right, he didn't even say the word, he said that was writing. We translate, since he knew he was going to die. Write it, give it, because he doesn't want her to perform levirate marriage with his brother immediately. He wants to protect her. Okay, so we write it and give it to her. It is, we must also speak that we have time to write it, to give it to her right away. Otherwise, the get wouldn't have been of much use. Between the moment he gets the sentence and the moment he's going to carry out the sentence, time to write the get and give it to his wife. Otherwise, it wouldn't have worked. Now, they also added the cases, the one who goes on a trip, who goes by boat, and since at the time it was dangerous, who goes into the deserts, who told him we were writing, and we were giving the get to writing. We were giving the get returned. Yeah, we just gave it to him. Oh, yeah, no, it doesn't say Al here, you know. It's a big, he's by a boat. That he thinks into the yes, but that's not written in the get. He didn't say that. No, it's like when he leaves for war. Yes, but in war there are two kinds of war. One war, that's all as David said. There's a guy who says Mashay and divorce, Mashay. But in secret, so people don't. He doesn't need to do the shower. He doesn't need to, because as soon as the guy came back, he's like, so we can't do it. But that's not the case marked here. I'm not saying you can't do it. That's not the case. Is someone who is agonistic, someone who is sick, someone who we realize has cancer in the placenta? Not the placenta, what do we call it? That he has 2 years to live on average today. They haven't managed to find him for that. So he said, write a get for my wife, we write a get, and we also give it to her. And he relies on that. That's someone who has a terminal illness. He's pulled back. He's going to die soon. Even if he hadn't said, give the get, we give the get, well, he's still. And the whole of dem, what is it? What happens with the ma? It's the whole that comes from, we don't know if they took it or didn't take it. Let's resume. What happens on Shabbat? If now I didn't have time to take it before Shabbat, Demal, can I ask the question, and based on his answer, can I be? And that here that someone knows what he was or not. Did he take ma or not? Can I rely on his testimony? Or do I ask the question he told me I took? That Shabbat that I bought from Amar, I asked the question, that's enough for me. That, now that one which fell back, which got mixed up with something that is not, something that is, which got mixed up with, how do we do? No. I can't know where the die is. So I'm basing it on the person's testimony. I can't be, because it is. I can ask the question. With that, the problem, even if it got mixed up during the week, I can ask him the question, and I can eat the. When it got mixed up, it's the same. Coming to be on that. And on that I have, don't open on the generation. Now we're going to say not the children. That you are making do. Growing more and more visible.